I didn't think much about my neighbor at first. I moved into that house in late spring just outside a small town in the Midwest. Quiet street, modest homes, lawns that were a little uneven but cared about enough to feel safe. I was renting fresh off a breakup and honestly just wanted peace. No roommates, no drama, just work, sleep, repeat. Mark lived in the house to my left, middle-aged, maybe mid-50s, kept to himself, polite in a stiff way. He waved once when I was unloading boxes. Came over that evening with a six-pack and said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." That was it. No long conversation, no weirdness. I remember thinking he seemed lonely but harmless. The first strange thing happened about 2 weeks later. I came home from work and found my trash can pulled up close to my garage. Not tipped over, not rummaged through, just moved. I assumed the wind did it, even though it was a heavy can and the day had been calm. I rolled it back without thinking twice. A few days later, my mailbox was open. Not damaged, not missing mail, just open. Again, I brushed it off. Mail carrier mistake, maybe. Kids being dumb. I didn't want to be the person who saw danger in everything. Then things started disappearing. Not valuables, nothing obvious, small things. A pair of work gloves from my garage, a cheap extension cord, a screwdriver. Stuff I could convince myself I misplaced. I even blamed myself out loud once, standing in the garage saying, "You're losing it." I wish I had trusted that uneasy feeling instead. One Saturday afternoon, Mark knocked on my door. He was holding my extension cord. I recognized it immediately because it had a strip of red tape around the plug. "Found this in my yard," he said. "Figured it was yours." I thanked him, feeling embarrassed, apologized for the trouble. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That was the first time I noticed that about him. His smile always looked practiced. After that, he started finding more of my things. Always in his yard, gloves, a wrench, even a package I'd been expecting opened but nothing taken. "I think animals drag stuff around," he said once casually. That didn't make sense, but I nodded anyway. Around this time, my dog started acting strange. She was a calm lab mix, older, lazy. Suddenly, she refused to go into the backyard alone. She'd stand at the door and whine until I went out with her. If I tried to coax her, she'd dig her paws into the floor like she was bracing herself. Again, I ignored the warning. The tension really kicked in the night my power went out. It was just my house. Street lights still on, neighboring houses lit up. I checked the breaker. Everything looked normal. When I stepped outside, Mark was already in his yard, leaning on the fence between us. "Power out?" he asked. "Yeah, just mine, apparently." He nodded slowly. "Old wiring around here. Happens." He offered to let me run an extension cord from his place. I declined, not wanting to impose. He shrugged and went back inside. My power came back on an hour later. The next morning, I noticed my outdoor outlet cover was cracked. Fresh crack, plastic hanging loose. I stared at it for a long time, my stomach tight, but I still didn't confront him. I didn't want to be paranoid. I didn't want to accuse someone without proof. That hesitation cost me more than I like to admit. Things escalated after that. My trash started getting mixed with his, bags tied with knots I didn't use, food wrappers I never bought. Once there was a photo in my trash, a printed photo of my backyard, taken from an angle that could only have been from his upstairs window. That was the moment fear finally settled in. I marched over and knocked on his door. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When he opened the door, he looked genuinely surprised. I held up the photo. Why was this in my trash? He stared at it for a few seconds, then laughed softly. That's weird, that's not mine. You're the only one who could have taken it. He leaned against the doorframe, suddenly calm. Too calm. You sure you didn't print it yourself and forget? Something in his voice made my skin crawl, like he was testing me, seeing how far he could push. I told him to stop touching my property, to stay away. I threatened to call the police. He nodded again, that same slow nod. Of course. I'd want the same. For a week, nothing happened. I started to relax. I told myself I'd overreacted. Then I came home early one day. My front door was unlocked. I know I locked it. I always did. Deadbolt and knob. Inside, nothing looked disturbed. No mess, no broken locks. But the air felt wrong. Heavy. Like I had walked into a conversation that stopped the moment I entered. My bedroom closet door was open. Inside, my clothes were rearranged, not stolen, rearranged. Shirts I never wore hung at the front. Shoes turned to face outward. On the top shelf, someone had placed my spare house key, the one I kept hidden in the garage. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I sat on the bed and felt my hands shake uncontrollably. That night, I slept with every light on. The next day, I called the police. They took a report but said without signs of forced entry or missing items, there wasn't much they could do. They suggested I change my locks. I did, immediately. When I got home from the hardware store, Mark was waiting outside. "New locks?" he asked, smiling. I didn't answer. His smile faded just a little. Probably smart. That was the first time I saw anger slip through. After that, things turned openly hostile. Noise complaints from him that weren't real. Anonymous calls to my landlord saying I was damaging the property. Once animal control showed up claiming my dog was aggressive. She'd never hurt anyone in her life. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, photos. One evening, while taking out the trash, I noticed his garage door was partially open. Inside, I saw shelves lined with labeled bins. My name was written on several of them. I didn't go closer. I didn't need to. I moved out 2 weeks later, no notice. Left furniture behind, slept on a friend's couch until I found a new place in another city. I thought it was over. 6 months later, I got a call from a detective. Mark had been arrested. Not because of me, because of someone else. Another neighbor, different street, same behavior, but this time it went further. They found journals, detailed notes, schedules, photos, names. The detective asked if I wanted to add a statement. I said no, I just wanted to forget. But here's the thing. I still check my locks 3 times every night. I still don't leave spare keys anywhere, and whenever I move somewhere new, the first thing I learn isn't the grocery store or the commute. It's who lives next door. Because sometimes the scariest part isn't being watched or chased or haunted. It's realizing the person who smiled at you over the fence already knew exactly where everything you owned was and how easily they could take it. I moved into my apartment complex in a small town in the Midwest about 6 months ago. At first, it seemed perfect. Quiet streets, big yards, and everyone kept to themselves. You know, the kind of place where people wave when they pass, but you don't really know anyone's name. That was fine by me. I like my privacy. I was renting a unit on the second floor near the end of the building. The apartment itself was nice enough, nothing fancy, but clean and affordable. The first week I noticed my neighbor across the hall, a man who lived alone. Let's call him Dan. I saw him only a handful of times, mostly in passing, and he seemed normal. Polite nods, friendly hello when we ran into each other in the hall. That's it. About a month after I moved in, things started to feel off. It was subtle at first. I'd leave my apartment for work in the morning and come back to find small things out of place, like my doormat shifted a few inches, or the mail I left on the counter had been moved. I thought I was imagining it at first. Maybe I was just tired. Then it escalated. One evening I got home around 7 p.m. My apartment door was locked like usual, but the chain lock, the one you can engage from the inside, was latched. I live alone, so that meant someone had been inside. My heart sank. I checked every room. Nothing seemed stolen. Nothing was broken. But the feeling, that tight knot in my stomach, you know the one when something is very wrong. It wouldn't leave. I called the police. They came, did a walkthrough, found no evidence of forced entry, and chalked it up to a possible maintenance error. I didn't argue, but after that night I started noticing him more. Dan. I'd see him outside my apartment at odd times. Sometimes I'd come home from work and he'd be sitting on his porch just staring in my direction. Not waving, not smiling, just sitting. At first I thought it was paranoia. It had to be. But then things got stranger. One night I was cooking dinner. I live alone, like I said, so I tend to keep my phone with me in the kitchen. I got a text from an unknown number. It read, "Nice apartment. Very cozy." I froze. My first thought was prank. Wrong number. Maybe someone in the building. But there was something about it, like they knew I was home. The timing, the detail, it made my skin crawl. I didn't reply. Then the calls started. At first, just 1 or 2 a week. No one on the line, just silence. Then they became daily. Sometimes they'd come while I was asleep. I'd wake up to my phone vibrating on the nightstand, check the caller ID, and it would be the same unknown number. Silence. I stopped answering. I tried telling myself it was nothing, that maybe it was some weird coincidence. Until one night around 2 a.m. I heard a loud banging. Not on the door, but on the wall, like someone was hitting it from the other side right next to my bedroom. My blood ran cold. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The banging stopped as suddenly as it started. The next day I asked the building manager if anyone had complained about noise. He shrugged and said no. I asked around casually if anyone had noticed anything weird. People just laughed. "This town, nothing happens here." I wanted to believe them. I really did. But then came the package. It was a small cardboard box left outside my door, no note, no return address. I brought it inside, my hands shaking. I opened it slowly. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It was of my living room, taken from outside the window. Taken at night. My couch, my coffee table, my kitchen. Everything in perfect focus. I couldn't breathe. I called the police again. This time they were more serious. They came, dusted for prints, but there were no usable ones. No fingerprints, no footprints outside that pointed to anyone. "It's possible someone is casing your apartment," the officer said. But they couldn't do much without catching someone in the act. I started locking my doors and windows obsessively. Every night I double-checked. Every time I left, I triple-checked. But even that didn't make me feel safe. Then the note started. Handwritten, left slipped under my door. At first, simple things. I see you. Don't be mad I'm looking. Then they got longer, more specific. I like the way you arrange your books on the shelf. Your coffee smells good in the morning. I hope you don't mind me watching you cook. I'm not exaggerating. These weren't vague, generic threats. They were observations of my daily life. Things no one should know about unless they're inside your apartment. I tried to reach out to Dan in the most casual way possible. Hey neighbor, everything okay? No reply. He kept up his polite nods in the hallway, but I noticed he avoided eye contact after that, like he knew. Or maybe he had nothing to do with it at all. I started sleeping with a baseball bat under my bed. I installed extra locks. I even bought a small camera to place in my apartment. I didn't tell anyone else in the building. I was embarrassed. People think you're overreacting until it happens to you. One night, after about 3 months of this, I came home late from work, exhausted, mentally drained, just wanting to collapse into bed. I unlocked my door and froze. Dan was sitting on my couch, not hiding, not sneaking, just sitting. My laptop was open, streaming a movie I hadn't turned on. He didn't say a word. I didn't scream, I didn't panic, well, not immediately. I just stood there. My mind was racing 100 miles an hour. What do you even do in that situation? Call the cops, grab the bat, run? He looked at me calmly, almost smiling, and then he said in a tone that was almost casual, "You leave the door unlocked sometimes." I think I blacked out for a second. When I came to, he was gone. No trace. The couch was back in place. My apartment looked normal, except for the fact that now everything felt tainted. After that, I moved out. I didn't tell anyone why. Just said I found a new job in a different city. I left in the middle of the night, packed everything, didn't leave a forwarding address. Even now, months later, I can't stop thinking about it. The way he must have been watching, the way he must have known when I'd be home, what I'd be doing. The thought that someone could just sit in my apartment without me noticing, it's a terror I can't shake. I've thought about what I would have done if I'd confronted him, if I'd called the police while he was there. But part of me knows that might not have stopped him. Some people just enjoy the control, the fear, and there's no telling what he might have done if I'd tried to fight back. I still get nervous when I see someone sitting quietly in a room just watching. I can't explain it, but that memory sticks with me. He didn't need to break in, didn't need a weapon. He didn't need to threaten me. He just existed inside my life, in the one space that should have been mine alone. And that's what terrifies me the most, that someone could do that it could happen to anyone. That someone you pass in the hallway, someone you nod politely to, could know everything about you without ever raising suspicion. It's been half a year since I moved, but every time I unlock a door, every time I walk into a room alone, I think about that night. The night I realized that terror doesn't need shadows. Sometimes it's just a neighbor, and sometimes that neighbor is watching. I moved into that house in late spring. Small place, nothing special, but it was affordable and close to work. Suburban street, neatly cut lawns, flags on porches, kids riding bikes in the evenings. The kind of neighborhood that makes you feel safe without ever promising it out loud. The house next to mine belonged to a man named Carl. At least that's what he told me the first time we spoke. He was in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. Average height, thinning hair, always dressed like he'd just come from the hardware store. Jeans, work boots, faded jackets. He introduced himself while I was unloading boxes from my car. "Welcome to the block," he said, smiling just enough to be polite. That was it. No long conversation, no questions about my life. Just a welcome and a nod before he went back inside. For the first few weeks, nothing felt off. Carl kept to himself. His lights went on early, off early. His trash was always out on time. His yard was cleaner than mine. If anything, he seemed boring, and boring neighbors are the best kind. Things started changing in small ways, ways I didn't notice right away. The first thing was the packages. I work long hours, so I get a lot of deliveries. Groceries, household stuff, random things I order late at night. At first I thought the delivery drivers were just getting lazy. Boxes would show up on my porch already opened. Not torn apart, just sliced cleanly like someone had carefully checked the contents and closed them again. Nothing was missing. That's what made it weird. Who opens a package and doesn't take anything? I shrugged it off. Maybe the tape had come loose. Maybe the driver opened it to check the label. It wasn't worth worrying about. Then one evening I came home to find a package sitting inside my garage. I know for a fact I'd closed the garage that morning. I even double-checked because I'm paranoid about that kind of thing. But there it was, sitting neatly on the concrete floor right near the door into the house. I stood there longer than I want to admit, just staring at it. Again, nothing was missing. The box wasn't damaged, it was just moved. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Maybe I'd left the garage open without realizing it. Maybe the delivery driver thought they were being helpful. I locked everything that night anyway. After that, Carl started talking to me more. Not in an obvious way. Not like he suddenly became chatty. It was little comments dropped casually, like he already knew the answers. "Looks like you finally fixed that loose step," he said one morning. I hadn't mentioned the step to anyone. Another time he said, "Hope your sister's doing better. Car trouble can be a pain. I don't have a sister, I have a cousin who'd borrowed my car a week earlier. Each time I laughed it off, corrected him, told myself he was just guessing or mixing me up with someone else. But the unease started settling in my chest, slow and heavy. The smell came next. It was faint at first, a sour metallic odor that drifted through my open windows late at night. I thought maybe it was trash, but it always seemed strongest near the wall we shared. I mentioned it to Carl once, half joking. "Smells weird sometimes, doesn't it?" I said. He smiled, slow and tight. "Old houses," he replied. "They hold on to things." That answer stuck with me. Not because it was wrong, but because of how he said it, like he meant something else. I started paying closer attention after that. Not watching him, not spying, just noticing. His routine never changed. He never had visitors, no friends, no family, no noise, except for the occasional thump late at night like something heavy being moved across a floor. One night the power went out on the whole block. I remember it clearly because it was storming, rain pounding the roof so hard it drowned out everything else. I lit a few candles and sat in the living room scrolling on my phone with no signal. That's when I heard it. A soft knock, not at the front door, at the wall. 3 slow taps. I froze, listening. The house was silent except for the rain, then 3 more taps in the same spot. I didn't respond. I told myself it was the pipes. Old houses, that's what Carl had said, right? The next morning there was a note in my mailbox. No stamp, no envelope, just a folded piece of paper. It said, "Sorry about the noise last night. Things slipped." No name, no explanation. I didn't call the police. I should have, but I didn't. There was nothing concrete to report, just a feeling, and feelings don't hold up. Instead, I installed cameras, just basic ones. Front door, backyard, garage. For a while, nothing happened. No alerts, no movement. Then I checked the footage one evening and noticed something strange. Every night around 2:17 a.m., the garage camera would cut out for exactly 1 minute. Not freeze, not glitch, just black. I checked the logs, no errors, no alerts, just missing time. I confronted Carl the next day, trying to sound casual. "You mess with electronics much?" I asked, laughing. He looked confused. "Nope, never been good with that stuff." I wanted to believe him, I really did. The breaking point came a week later. I woke up early before my alarm with that metallic smell thick in the air. Stronger than ever. I followed it, heart pounding, to the garage. That's when I noticed the door between our houses. I'd never seen it before. Hidden behind shelving painted the same color as the wall was a narrow door. No handle on my side. Just hinges, old and rusted. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I backed away and locked myself in my bedroom until morning. When the police came, Carl didn't resist. He didn't argue. He didn't even look surprised. The worst part wasn't what he did. It was what he said as they led him away. He looked at me, calm as ever, and said, "You were quiet. I appreciated that." I sold the house 3 months later. Sometimes when I'm up late, I still think about how close I was to never realizing the truth. How easy it was to ignore the signs. How normal he seemed. And I wonder how many people are living next to someone like Carl right now, telling themselves the same lies I did, that nothing's wrong, that it's just an old house, that it could never happen to them. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Mr. Terrifying for more true horror stories that will keep you up at night. Have you ever had a neighbor who gave you that uneasy feeling? Share your story in the comments.